Thank you for your patience. We will now like to start the conversation with young generation innovators. First of all, I would like to introduce two moderators for this session, Professor Dr. Nebojsa Nakicenovic and Ms. Changhua. Professor Dr. Nebojsa Nakicenovic is ICEF Steering Committee, Vice Chair of the Group of Chief Scientific Advisors to the European Commission's, Honorary Emeritus Scholar of International Institute for Applied System Analysis, Emeritus Professor of Energy Economics, Vienna University of Technology. Ms. Changhua is ICEF Steering Committee, China-Asia Director for Office of Jeremy Rifkin, co-founder of Professional Association for China's Environment, Chief Strategist of CN Innovation, Vice Chair of Governing Council for Asia-Pacific Water Forum. I would now like to ask Professor Dr. Nakicenovic to moderate the session. So Professor Dr. Nakicenovic, if you please.
Actually, I'm going to be the lead moderator. Thank you, though. Good afternoon, everyone. This is always probably, if not the most exciting, inspiring session of ICEF annual meeting. At least it's one of the few, right? This is the opportunity to have this cross-generational conversation, particular with some of the leading innovators. We call like net zero generation. So make sure you're really going to really ask questions, answer their questions, so do not waste the opportunities there. So my job is relatively easy, but I'm going to help facilitate the flow of the conversation here. Now, on the stage, from the left to right here, I will call their name actually. So they are Faten Attig-Bahar from Tunisia, Dr. Jing Chen from China. You two just switched actually. Trishna Nagrani from India, Mr. Akihiro SANDO from Japan. We have Laura Leoncini from Italy. Mr. Takaya Naguchi from Japan, and also online, we have the third moderator, Professor Fire, Andrew Fire. Many of you listened to his sharing yesterday already. And also, we have online, we have Ms. Natsumi WADA. And those are the people on stage and also online that are going to have the conversation today. Without further ado, I'm going to ask Professor Naki to help really set the scene and get the conversation going. The floor is yours, Naki. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, first of all, it's a great pleasure to be in this session, and I would like to amplify what you said at the beginning. I think this promises to be the highlight of the 10th anniversary ICEF, and I think it's also fair to say that during the previous 9 ICEFs, the young generation innovator sessions were always really a central place, and at least in my lasting memory. So I'm looking very much forward to the discussion. Let me just make one brief comment. If you look at my generation, that means people who have worked over the last 50 years, the period that many call the Great Acceleration. A lot has been achieved, but many people have been left behind. And we are also on the brink of many of the tipping elements in the planetary systems and also social systems. So I think it is the young generation, the next generation, that has the Herculean task to overcome this really impasse that we are facing as a humanity so that we can have a safe and just future for everybody. I promise to be very, very brief, so I have very little other things to add, just to say that please keep the innovations, lots of luck with your initiatives, both in the scientific and with the startups. And I think what is the key is that some of the ideas that you will be presenting get deployed and get the support to enter the market and become dominant in the future. So that's the hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Naki. And now we're going to get to know them more. So start with Faten. 3 minutes now.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon from where you are joining us. Here is Faten Attig-Bahar, environmental scientist from Tunisia Polytechnic School, but also I'm serving international scientific community for climate action, including the World Meteorological Organization Research Board, Future Earth Governing Council, Future Earth Water Energy Food Nexus, Knowledge Action Network, Future Earth Africa Committee, as well as the Young Earth System scientist in the role of Executive Committee member and Scientific Board of Africa Leaks. I'm given 3 minutes. 3 minutes is not enough to tell about all my inspiration in doing these activities and also in taking this path, because I believe that the next decade is very important in terms of action that we need for climate resilience. And also a part of the solution, we need to have the young scientists, the young leaders, and the young innovator in the forefront of this. For us, we selected the path of science because I'm a scientist, environmental scientist. And also I wanted to apply this in an engaging role, so I consider myself as an activist scholar for climate and environment, and we worked hard with the communities in order to reach out to the young generations of my age and also help them to adapt to climate change, and also give them the tools, the ability, the opportunities to be part of this by supporting many of the activities, projects, and plans and programs through, for example, the Young Earth System Scientists, the webinar they are doing for Africa, for capacity development, for example, through Future Earth, for the empowering this community of the science, sustainability, and innovation Congress, when we have the early career scientist corner where they can innovate and evolve and bring much more of activities. I'm happy to engage with you in a discussion for the next hour, and I think that I have to give the word to the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And Jing?
Thank you. I'm Jing Chen from China. It's a great pleasure for me to share my work with this distinguished group. And I worked at the Research Center of Energy Transition and Social Development of Tsinghua University. In 2019, we initiated a global campaign. It is about the 1 kilometer per capita. And this year, we launched a project named Solar Nights Planet. And Ms. Wu is the co-leader of this project. So we made a solar map, and we have a website. We upload the data of each case to the database. And some counties have been lighted, which means these counties, the solar capacity have already over the 1 kilometer per capita. And we care about the rural energy transition in China. We have built more than 20 zero carbon experimentation stations in rural China. And what is zero carbon village? The heating, the transportation, the daily life in village, and the agriculture activities. All of these things, there will be zero carbon. And the solar will give this green electricity for these things at home. And generally, a house with a roof of 100 square meters can install the solar PV for 20 kilowatts. Also, this project will benefit the villagers and meets the SDGs goal. There are 5 investments in future village. They are including the solar PV, also the infrastructure investment, such as the distribute grid network, and the daily life in your home, and also the agriculture infrastructures investment.
Okay, can you leave maybe more content for later?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And Trishna?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. It is good to be here with such esteemed moderators, and fellow panelists. A little bit about me. I was born and raised in Panama to Indian parents, and I've had the privileged opportunity to either work or study in the UK, then in the US, and just recently in China. Why am I sharing all of this? It's not that I want to go globetrotting just like that. The reason why I share this is because I think, one, climate crisis is a global problem, and I think we all recognize that. And I think Professor Smil mentioned something very interesting in the prior session, is we have some countries that are not even talking to each other. And one of the things I want to continue working on is to hopefully bridge that gap, whether it's through platforms such as ICEF over here, or just being able to do it in a more academic context. The second thing I want to share, and it's going back to the question of how can we achieve a net zero economy? I personally believe, as my second point is, I think this can only be done through an interdisciplinary lens. I think it's an all hands in deck situation, and the way we can achieve that is to bring our strengths and interests and then putting it towards climate. When I started studying my undergrad, climate was not at the forefront of what I had. I was a math geek and just looking at numbers. And through work, I actually realized how big the problem is and why I wanted to focus on this. Some of the things I've done and the intersection that I like looking at is mainly AI, climate, and finance. I know it sounds a lot, and it is overwhelming, as I was telling to Ms. Move sometimes. Some of the things that I've worked on is I've recently graduated as a Schwarzman Scholar from Changhua University as well. And something I worked on over there is looking at green bonds and carbon markets from a global lens, comparing all of the structural barriers. Other few things that I've done is looking at green infrastructure investments during my time at the World Bank Group, as well as being able to start a company within the AI space for the last 5 years in London. And this is exactly why the roadmap that I got to work on the last few months with Professor Sandalo and many other cool professors and got to present it today morning is one of the things I want to keep propelling on, is that intersection of how can we keep resolving the climate crisis. AI is just one of the many ways. Climate instruments or finance is just one of the other ways. So these are the two messages I wanted to send across through my profile, but also I think that's something we can do to achieve, hopefully mitigate the climate crisis, whether it's 2050 or what we heard from Professor Michael, 2070. Let's see. Thank you.
Thank you, Trish. You can tell, even though they are young, the younger generation, they all been doing so much, actually, overwhelmingly inspiring, actually. So next, Akihiro-san.
Hi, everyone. My name is Akihiro Sando from Renewable Energy Institute from Japan, in Japan. I have my background. I have two hats. One is academic. My field is on local coexistence and local economy on offshore wind and geothermal. And hat two is the local activity. I have been participating into the geothermal energy project in Nagasaki, which is led by community, which is a grassroots action. So I have been feeding back in my head to academic to the local activities, the knowledge and experience back and forth. So from those two points of view, I am optimistic about the net zero society. For example, as of the technology, it is innovating. Human being cannot stop inventing or innovating. As of policy, or as of business, people cannot stop doing business when we found the profiting area. As of a policy, if we find the technology and businesses have an opportunity, maybe they like to start. So I think I'm optimistic about the net zero society, except one, which is human emotions, I think. I have been working with the local activities, and human is uncontrollable and very difficult. So my message is, it is important to talk about the global issues, but before about the global issues, we need to talk more about the local issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Akihiro-san. And the next one, Laura.
Hi, Laura Leoncini. means little lions in Italian. I'm honored actually to be in this panel. It makes me feel younger. And I come from a background of marketing and international cooperation and development. So I am, let's say, embracing the passion that you have when you're young or very young into wanting to make the world a better place and to change the world. And I was interviewing someone a week ago, and she was telling me, you know, we have dreams when we're young, and then we become adults, and then somehow these dreams. So this is exactly why having young innovators and startups is very important to today's topic, which is the net zero society, because we need to be kept in check with the younger generation as to what are our dreams or what were our dreams, because it's never late to keep that check and say, okay, check mark, am I doing enough? It's true that we become more realistic when we become adults, and we say, okay, maybe I didn't want to take any plane when I was traveling, only train. Now maybe I do take the plane to come to Japan and be part of this conference, but still the ideals are high and the values are there. And so but it's through young people and the young minds and innovation comes through, and looking at it from the perspective of the company I work for today, which is Eaton. Eaton is a huge company, it's a multinational, and it's dedicated to energy transition, electrification, power distribution. There's a big division dedicated to aerospace components and thermal management and hydraulic systems and so forth. And then what Eaton does is that they do acquire companies, startups from different fields so that they can get that fuel of innovation that is otherwise lacking in the whole in a structure which, structurally obliges us in society and in the markets to show results, to show numbers, and to be structured and have processes. But structure and process are oftentimes the antonyms of innovation. So having startups, having the young minds, and having that very fertile terrain to grow is really important for companies and for the adults to keep dreaming, because the net zero society is a big dream, but it's not an impossible one.
Thank you, though. Thank you, Laura. And the next, Takaya-san.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm Takaya TAGUCHI from Helical Fusion, which is a fusion startup in Japan. And please let me introduce ourselves and myself and our technologies briefly. And our company's vision is humanity evolves with nuclear fusion. This is a big challenge and a big dream. But we are sure we can contribute to solve the big issues for human beings and the Earth, like decarbonization and realization of a hydrogen society, or a space living, or something like that. And nuclear fusion has been called a dream for human being, but I don't think it's a dream anymore. Because these days technology on plasma or other fusion technologies are developed higher and higher. And so we are now in the phase for the realization and the implementation of fusion energy. And actually, I'm not a fusion scientist. I specialized in philosophy when I was a university student and a graduate school student. And I started my career as a banker in Japan, and I, changed my job several times. And finally, by chance, I met with fusion scientists who planned to establish private company for fusion implementation. And I was surprised to see such, technology, dream-like technology. So I decided to establish this company, Helical Fusion, together with the scientists 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And we cannot realize commercial fusion reactors by ourselves. We need many partners, investors, and potential co-workers from any countries and any generations. Mm-hmm. So I'm very looking forward to find some friend for our company. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, Natsumi Wada-san from online.
Hi, everyone. Yep. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, lovely. So hi, everyone. It's great to see you. I mean, I can't physically see you, but good to meet you online. I am Natsumi from SOLIT, a social startup from Japan, working to encompass sustainability and diversity inclusion in fashion industry, which is, as people know, that having the greatest impact on the environment. And my job here is to look at the supply chain and also our corporate activity in every aspect to assess whether this is sustainable and inclusive, and to review our activity for the better. And I am not having the background of science. I have a background in social sciences, in anthropology. So it's differently from other experts here at this session, but I'd like to bring my own perspective in anthropology that look like putting importance of local and also the bottom-up or grassroots approach. But actually, I learned decarbonization field through Green Innovator Academy, which is a training program for young innovator in Japan. Actually, the Mr. SANDO here at the session leading the one-off session as well. So we have opportunity to learn the professional in the specific area. So that was a great opportunity for me to learn the different aspects in sustainable goals. And so, yeah, nice to meet you, everyone. So I strongly believe to achieve net zero society, it's also important to have community-based approach, not just technology-led or top-down approach. So I would like to bring my perspective in this discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Now you got to know and who are the young innovators actually on the stage online as well. Now, this is a conversational session, so get prepared. I would like to see hands, asking the questions before getting to the audience. Professor Fire, I know I've given you the task to summarize, but you've been very patiently listening through the process. I will give you the privilege to ask the first question. And yeah, can you hear me?
I'm sorry, your audio is lost.
Okay, I'm giving you the opportunity to ask the first question. Can you hear me now?
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, my first question for all the speakers or any of the speakers is, you've all talked about communicating with leadership, with the public, and with other scientists. What special sauce do you have to communicate with people who are non-scientists so that they understand the needs of their needs of their communities in the longer term sense? Any ideas on that would be valuable.
Okay, thank you, Professor Fire. I'm going to give maybe 2 or 3 young innovators on the stage to give a quick answer. Okay.
Thank you very much. This is one of the experiences that I didn't share when introducing myself. I'm actually an author for children, and I published more than 20 books in the Arabic language. And one of the books were dedicated for science diplomacy with a cooperation with this institute in Germany. So the topic was that we wanted to introduce this young generation in one of their common projects in Jordan on the aspect of energy and so on. They have developed the core documents in the German language, but then they try to connect with some young leaders with different Arabic skills, but also coming from the scientific community. So then when we make this kind of books and translation that could be relevant for those who will be reading this and get educated about it. So I think this is also one way that we can use to communicate with non-scientific people, and here I'm targeting the young and the children because here are also a young generation for this kind of task. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great answer. Maybe one more. Is there anyone you want to answer Professor Fire's question? Okay, Jing, please.
Okay, thanks for the questions. I think for young scientists, just take our projects. For example, we investigate in the villagers, they don't have enough knowledge for the carbon neutrality. So we will share our ideas and knowledge to them. I think this is meaningful for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to stand up. I cannot see you clearly. Any hands, questions from the audience, from the ICE members in particular? Yes, Ismail. If not, Mike.
I'm very intrigued by this younger generation, of course, which are known as the digital natives. And that unlike dinosaurs like me, you've grown up with social media and so on. Yet today, social media is where a lot of attacks against science occur, and where a lot of conspiracy theories and disinformation about all the issues in climate change goes there. So as people, young scientists, but who are also of the generation where this social media plays a big role, how do you see spreading real science to confront these realities of social media?
That's a great question, thank you. Trish, can you answer that question?
Sure. Thank you for putting me on the spot. I think one way I look at social media is that there's always going to be noise, sadly. And I remember when I was doing my research and I wanted to come across some of the early stage investments happening in the climate space, and I read so much noise. And the only way I could scope that out, and I know this is not answering as a digital native, was actually reaching out to the people directly and having a conversation with them, and then being able to share that information. So that's actually one way I've gone about it, and it worked. I don't think it's a scalable way, so I'm fully aware of the limitation it possesses. And I think that's one way I have personally found a way to parse out noise, whether it was through research for certain initiatives or looking at specific startups who I wanted to work with and understand the technology behind it. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you. Faten, you have something to say as well, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, I want to follow up on what was said. And for us, I feel like the social media are really great tool for outreach. And we use a lot of this outreach with for example, Facebook or LinkedIn or any of this social media. I can give you two examples. We used this for the Testimo when we had the Science and Innovation conference, and we had a lot of interaction of people who wanted to see live what is going on and also take part of the discussions, even offline, and then when we could educate them on what is happening with the tools and so on. And second, we use this for the science highlights. We have an activity that we are doing with the young Earth system scientists that when we publish documents, climate or science or earth science oriented, we have kind of highlights of this scientific document, and then we try to share this and promote it via social media. And every time we have a lot of interaction and a lot of feedback coming from this. Yeah, thank you.
Akihiro?
Okay, to cope with those social media, what I think is we also need a grassroots action. Social media is huge and very large, so we tend to think we have to solve bigger and big solution. But what I think is we need to act like a very one-to-one action. And social media is a very big media, but also the technology is very easy to spread out the ideas. So if you show the one-to-one dialogue or the conversation into the social media, people see from outside which spreads the better or good ideas too. So what I think is a grassroots action even in the social media. Thank you.
Thank you. George?
In order to be a successful innovator, you must have some optimism. But if I observe from outside the young generation, particularly in Germany or in Europe, many young people don't appear to be really optimistic. My question, is this the observation you have? Do you have colleagues which are somehow thinking pessimistic? And do you think you have an impact on them by making example how good is making innovations so that they can become more optimistic?
Thank you, George. Laura, I put you on the spot.
Thank you. So if I think of my next generation cousins and nephews, they're actually looking at the world in a positive way, although they're more criticizing. So compared to the older generation, the younger generation says, we're going to do better. And and there's a negative, I think it's more the negative concern towards what the old generation has done to the world than the actual negative affection, what they think is going to be the outcome. So I rather would swap this perception maybe that you have, or maybe that the media also wanna give us of the young generation maybe being more negative, as to more rather criticizing, but in an optimistic way, want to still change the world. And social media, like bridges a bit of the question before, is also the way that we look at it, because the media, the grand media, can take some news from the social media that can generalize sometimes too much. But there's lots of good that is done on at the web effect of the social media spreading. The kids today and the young generation have so much access, much more access to information than we used to have and our parents used to have, and that's positive to me.
Okay, thank you. Akihiro-san?
Hi, I also see a lot of pessimistic people. It's more pessimistic people in the countryside in Japan, and I think it's because they don't have the opportunity to know about for example, climate change. Or they have opportunity, but they don't have time to know about the climate change. So if they have the opportunity to know about it, I think it's going to getting better. And if there's at least one optimistic person in a good atmosphere, I think it is going to be spreading out. So I'm optimistic. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, thank you, and it's great to hear your stories. And yeah, my question, a little bit related, is you've obviously dedicating your time and effort to addressing climate change in a positive way, which is great. But how do we attract more people into this space, particularly more young people, to get involved in a positive way? I know on my panel, the representative from Tanzania has said climate change is seen as a bad thing. It's a problem. It's something, it's negative, not positive. So it was just, how do we attract more smart, positive people into this space?
Hold that thought. I'm going to gather another question. Yes, please.
Okay, thank you so much. I would like to congratulate you. Your interventions are so insightful. However, I do have a question. Based on the education system in most of the countries, I think it prepares us more to be employed rather than being entrepreneurs. And in most cases, becoming an innovator means you have to take the entrepreneurial pursuit. And we have this kind of mantra, like to be an entrepreneur is to like taking a risk of either succeeding or becoming poor. And in my community, usually people say that if you see a poor person eating chicken, it is either him or the chicken is sick. So what are we going to do, like to reform our education system so as to make sure that we generate innovators from the very early stage? Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you for the question. Okay, yeah, I'm going to ask colleagues who have not said anything yet. WADA-san, would you like to answer some of the questions, the two questions?
Oh, really difficult question for both, but I think I would like to address the second question about entrepreneur one, because I believe that what you say is correct, but especially in Japan, even though you are employed, you need to have a sort of mindset to be entrepreneur, to make more innovative solution to the company or to the product or to the services that towards the current company working, because we already, we are getting to be aware that the current system is not working properly. So we need some innovation to change the system at the moment. So, I mean, for the educational system, I'm not sure what can we do, but still either you are entrepreneur or you are employed, I still believe that we need a mindset to change or to be an innovator for the individuals.
Okay, thank you. Takaya-san?
Okay. Regarding the second question, actually, I don't think being entrepreneur is not so high risk activity, because the experience as an entrepreneur or CEO or founder itself is very valuable for this ecosystem in the startup world. So even if you fail in the certain activity as an entrepreneur, many people are seeing your precious activity you are experiencing. So if the other people are wanted to establish other company, the woman or man will ask you to be in a company of the new activities.
Sure, thank you. Okay, yeah. No, go ahead.
Okay. I'm answering the first question, how to attract young people to the climate change issue. I think it's to make a community. One example is there's a Green Innovator Academy, which is educating the more than 100 people one year to learn and study about climate change. And it's an academy to learn, but also meeting the similar people who is interested in the climate change. In this case, in Green Innovator Academy from all over Japan. So finding the buddy or the teammates, that's what we need to attract the young people. That's what I think.
Before we move on, we got a question online, so I'm going to add another question. Professor Naki, can you read out the question?
Sure, I'll be happy to read it. So the question is, I pledge for a worldwide workshop on how to engage the CO2 molecule. We can only succeed if we learn to love the enemy. Thank you. So I guess the question is really, how do we all relate to the carbon emissions through your innovations, and how to turn the negative story into the positive one? That would be my interpretation of the question.
Okay, Trish?
I will answer the question we just...
No, yeah, please. Yeah, this is just adding on.
Okay, but I would actually like to address the question first of how can we engage more young people into learning about climate change. I personally view it into two different groups. One is younger people who are in high schools yet, and it's one of the things I've noticed is there was a research I recently read by the UN that said 7 out of 10 young people between the age of 18 to 21 are concerned about climate change. But I think we need to go beyond concern, is what are you going to do about it? And
They're protesting now, every Friday, right? They've been doing that for a while. Yeah.
Yes, so I think there's one way to look at it from a top-down approach, which is bringing more policies that introduce courses or classes about climate change in high schools. That's one way I look at it. And then the second group I divided is young professionals, whether it's the age of 21 and above. How do you get those people who have already built a foundational skill set and can apply that into climate change? Sure. And that one, I don't have the answer yet, but I think that's the second group of people I would look into.
Okay, thank you. Jing, quickly.
Okay, I'll answer the first question back. Actually, this year we have organized so many activities to encourage the colleagues and young generators to join us for our project. This is our slogan, 1 person, 1 kilowatt. So I need everyone here. Thank you.
Yeah. Faten, quickly.
Thank you very much. Actually, I want to reflect on 7 years experience working for the young scientists, and also because this was one of the main issues that we had. And usually, when we need to engage with the community, we need to raise awareness and educate people, because if you don't educate people, don't expect from people to follow you and understand what we are talking. And that was part of the actions and activity that we have been doing. So that's why we had this big campaign of webinars, of seminars, of workshops, where we bring young scholars from different universities. And our folks was like, for me, folks in more the African side. And also I would like to reflect on the question of optimism and pessimism, because when we see all the news, we feel all pessimistic about that, but when we feel that there is some actions and there is some contribution from the community and some people, young people who are coming there to help you, so like this, we are raising this kind of optimism. And also when we make them feel like our voices are heard, and then we can see it in these high-level panels, we can share our opinions, we can share our perspective, and sometimes give some criticism to something that we don't agree on. So I think this is the best optimism that we are given to the younger generations.
Thank you. Now, this is a conversational, so rather than put all the people, actually young people on the stage, like a press conference, they have to answer your questions, I'm going to turn the other way around. So you, all the young innovators represented here, you've been at this 10th anniversary ICEF annual meeting. You've been participating very actively. Now, I'm giving you the opportunity to ask our chairs here, many steering committee members here. So now it's your time to ask questions, whatever you want to say. Anyone to start? Laura, please.
Yes. I would like to start the representatives of companies. What do you do to attract the young generation so that they be a part of your company and not others?
Okay, I'm going to gather a few questions. So colleagues at the steering committee members, be prepared. Okay, the second question, Faten.
For me, I want to add to this one, what do you do to support the younger generation to be the next leaders for the future?
Cool. The third question, Trish?
One question I keep seeing is climate a political situation or not? Or why do we keep politicizing it? So I think a question I have in general is, how can we make climate politically neutral? And it kind of goes back to my first point of how can we really, truly collaborate on a global sense? Thank you.
Okay, do we have the mic here? If not, okay. Tanaka-san, you're the chair, I believe you. So you have to, really get the questions actually directed first and foremost actually to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very good question about politicization. How can we be neutral? This is interesting. We try to be as neutral as possible, but at the same time, the issue is very difficult, and politicians must decide anyway, right? So I am urging, I have a chance to visit the institute called Villers Institute in Switzerland, where they invited 200 high school students and talk about climate change mitigation and sustainability among different, different generations, different regions, and try to make that good education and awareness for these students. And what I'm asking these students is that when you're getting senior, older, become the president of the United States or prime minister of any country and try to change it in the way you are thinking. So I rather think politicization of the issue is inevitable, and the people like you are very well aware of the issue, should play the very important role for changing the politics, because these issues are very global. So nationalism and populism cannot solve. And politician tends to be very local because they have to be elected as constituency. It's inevitable. So at least the politician must understand these global issues with global identity. So I really wish you people, the young people, will be the politician and change the world.
Run for office, yeah. Vali.
Thank you very much. My name is Vali Musa. I'm from South Africa. I'm a member of the steering committee. On the question of what is ICEF and the steering committee doing to promote young people, a few years ago we had decided that we will no longer have any of our conferences without the participation of young people. And part of the result of that is this session. You're on the panel here. So we've decided to do that. That's what we are doing. Not much more that maybe we're not doing enough. Maybe you can have suggestions of what more we can do. On the question of what's being done to give young people opportunities? And in my country, in South Africa, I get asked that question quite often because I chair the South African Presidential Climate Change Commission. And it's an interesting question because in South Africa, about 65% of our population is under the age of 35. And my answer to them is simple, but you are the majority. We should be asking you to give us an opportunity to have a say, because you are the majority. And I find it very strange that young people are not grabbing and taking the opportunity and doing whatever they want to do. Frankly, older people don't have the energy to really stand in your way. You should be taking charge. If I think of myself, I grew up in apartheid South Africa, and we were a young generation that decided we were going to change the country into a democracy, and we did it because we thought the older people were just doing nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Vali. Professor Naki?
Yeah, talking about the young generation being in charge, I would like to respond to the question of how to make climate topic a little bit more neutral. You know, I think when we look into the future from the perspective of what might be happening, it is a kind of a scary story, a negative story, negative narrative. And I think you as innovators can really change the game around to bring a more positive story, talk about co-benefits of the actions that you are doing. And I think that's the only way forward. I think to make climate topic more neutral and more constructive is not to focus so much anymore on the disasters. That's important, but to focus more on opportunities.
Thank you. Now, the second round for you guys who have not asked questions. Questions? Yes, please.
I want to ask Tanaka-san, what's your dream? Yeah, we talk about our future, but it's your turn. What's your dream?
Not yet. Hold on that thought. Okay. Any questions? Wada-san, you are online, so you might be disadvantaged. Okay, what's your questions to our chair as well as other steering committee member of ICEF? Wada-san.
Okay. I wasn't thinking, but I mean, so I also work for a startup, and we collaborate with big corporation or, you know, like a mainstream members, and it's quite difficult to challenge towards like big players for the startup. And then how do you think that we can challenge or we can collaborate with big player with the small startup? Because a lot of people, like a growing startup has
just your question, briefly. So, you know, how do we support startups? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
Yes. What is the most crucial obstacle for all the big companies to jump into the innovative matters like fusion or other technologies?
Okay, cool. Tanaka-san, you can just hold a minute, a few minutes, think about your dream. Professor Rico. Yeah. No, I'm bringing that back. Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, it's actually belongs to the previous questions. But I'm so happy you are young, but you're also thinking about younger generations as well. And important thing is the scientific way of thinking. You know, if you look at all news, if mice beat cats, it's a news. But if cats but mice, there's no news. So something unexceptional, extraordinary things come to news. So don't believe everything, but you have to learn what is actually science and technology-based things. The important thing is the scientific way of thinking, and I hope you spread these things to even younger generation. Thank you.
Okay, Sally? You don't want to add, or? Yeah, please. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to answer a little bit about the question about what's so hard about, you know, jumping in by big companies. You know, and I can't speak for the whole world, but certainly I think in the United States, you know, quarterly earnings, you know, profitability, you know, it's just expected. And to jump into something that you don't know when it will be profitable, I think is really hard. So I've worked with lots of very big companies who are actually investing in innovations, and I really hope that they would have moved faster and deeper to innovate on those. But I think again, sort of it boils down to not really understanding how to convert these into profitable industries.
Yeah, Tanaka-san, your dream.
Well, my dream is related to what he asked about how the corporation can change. I think the best way is to make a woman as a president or CEO. That's the way. And then what is my dream? I'll tell you that my dream is to make a woman a president of the Tokyo Electric Company. Yeah. That is the only way they can start the nuclear power plant. And I think if Tokyo Electric has a woman as a president in 2011, she should have avoided that accident.
That's a great point, actually. So, yeah. Okay, final round of questions to your mentors, leaders here. Any? Laura, you have any question further? No?
Question, okay? Question to Tanaka-san.
Yeah, if you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the differentiator between the female president or male president?
Okay.
I can talk about that issue for an hour, but very easily speaking, I mean, change the structure or paradigm. I think we need an outsider. And in Japan, a woman is a typical outsider in the mainstream of the decision body in institute, business, or politics, or whatever. So that's the reason why we try to get half of the panelists should be the women in here, and also the young people. And that's the way to change the governance of Japan. And it is a very easy way to understand how corporation or politics or institute is trying to change. This is the best index. And Japan is the poorest in the World World Economic Forum ranking for the diversity.
Okay, yeah. So you got more tasks to do. So now, before I give Professor Fire the final sort of a surprise, summarizing duty, I'm going to ask each of you for the final round. What's the biggest takeaway for you to be here on this trip? Very short, the biggest one. No time to explain further. Faten?
This conversation, for me, it was very rich, and I think this different perspective shared on how can we foster actions to climate change are very important to me.
Cool. Jing?
Okay, I'm here. I want to solve the energy justice in China. So we want to benefit the villagers in rural areas.
Cool. Trish?
Two takeaways. One, actually, even before the question we got of young innovators definition. Because one thing I'm taking away is I don't think to be an innovator, you need to be an entrepreneur. I think we can see that in policymaking. I think we can see it as an intrapreneur and many other ways. And the second very quick takeaway is, again, I think we need to do this in an interdisciplinary manner.
Okay, thank you. Akihiro-san?
Now I am more optimistic. Yes.
Cool. Laura?
I would love for next year to have a session like this, but mixed between the young generation, the older generation on a topic and having a debate.
No, the only difference is you guys are here, we're here. So we're with you. Okay, cool, thank you. Takaya-san?
Okay, I was interested in many people are interested in how to attract the young people, young generation to this team. And I think we, startup should open more job position for the young generation. It's very important. So it's also our mission, I think.
Thank you. WADA-san?
Same as Lola, having discussion with different age group and different sectors of members. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Professor Fire, you have, by the way, actually, we are so much honored. We have a Nobel laureate to do the summary, actually, for this particular session. That's really a high bar in terms of how important, actually, ICEF puts to the future generations. Just to make sure to remind you to remember that. So, Professor Fire, you have your time to summarize 6 minutes exactly. Thank you.
My summary is very simple. Let's say I was called in to talk to the president of the world. And I went in to talk to her, and she was very, very intentionally trying to do the best she could with all the different constraints and wanted advice from me. What would I say? I would say, here's 6 people to talk to. Instead of talking to me for 6 minutes, talk to each of them for a minute. And so I'd love to get what they would advise somebody who was in a position of, almost ultimate power in the world, but still needing to be a democratically elected leader, what they should do. And a minute each. Okay, let's go.
Go, please. Yes, follow. WADA-san, you start.
Okay.
WADA-san? He's not here. Faten?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay. Can you repeat your question again?
Oh, in a minute, what would you tell the president of the world that she should do in order to, as best she can as a democratically elected leader, move the public towards supporting what they need to do in order to work towards carbon neutrality?
Okay, 40 seconds only. We don't have 1 minute for each. Okay. Faten, go ahead. This is the challenge.
I'll be very quick. Actually, I want to tell him that we need to bring young scientists into the leadership and also decision-making process, and also to foster this science policy interface, because this is very important. And so we need to have the young generation there for decision-making process. Thank you.
Jing? It's on.
Okay. Okay, I want to realize our project, Solar Nets Planet, it's good for the global. Thank you.
Okay, Trish?
Firstly, I would ask for a second meeting because 40 seconds is not enough. And the key thing I would ask is, what should we do to get the net zero generation up there? Whether it's upskilling through education or other ways. And that would be spoken in the second meeting.
Thank you, Akihiro.
I want to ask trust the climate change action and the people can support you.
Okay, cool. Laura?
To add 1 hour of climate awareness to each school, elementary school in the world.
Okay. Takaya-san?
Yes, I think that, the decision-making process is too slow or too conservative in the world, and especially in Japan. We have to change them.
WADA-san?
Giving more opportunity to minority groups that are excluded in the global market.
Okay, Professor Fire, are you happy or satisfied with all those answers?
I think we're going to need a second meeting, first of all. But those answers are great because they would, I think, arrange that second meeting perfectly. And I do think this is true, that the key thing is going to be to have the leaders talk to some of us in the older generation and also you guys directly so that they can understand what you understand. So that's really the lesson I take away from today.
Okay, thank you. Naki, Professor Naki, it's not really fair to give you only 2 minutes actually on the stage. I look at the clock. I have 2 more minutes actually for you. So I'm going to really give the last final words for this session, for this conversational session to you.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, this has been a very inspiring session. Also, thank you for great moderation and for great ideas that were posed. Just in response to the Professor Fire's question, I would imagine that every government, since we don't have the world government, should have an advisory group of early career young innovators on the way forward. I think the governments really lack that in a formal way, that kind of input. The other thing that occurs to me after listening to all of you and the great discussions is that innovation has not only just been the key of all of the ICEF meetings, but in some ways, innovative activities are very, very special when you compare them to the other human activities in the following sense. They're really not resource limited. If anything else, they're resource saving. So the potential is infinite. So I think you have the chance of really changing the world because many other things like climate, as we've discussed in this meeting, have really serious constraints, serious boundaries on the future development. But innovation opens a channel for having a safe and prosperous world for everybody.
Okay. Okay, thank you. One more minute for myself. Just a thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all the young innovators on the stage. And thank you my two co-moderators, Professor Fire and Professor Nike. I hope that you feel exactly inspired as we have been here. I know you've been listening very carefully and into this, and hopefully somehow there will be more connections made. I think some part of the voices actually probably you heard from the stage. They are all at their early sort of mid-stage of career entrepreneurship. Being here, I think, is a huge advantage to make the connections, not only to tell you what they are thinking, what they are doing, but very importantly, I think ICEF provides this platform to connect, right? Resources, talents, whatever. Why? Because we need to support them, and they will support us as well. And thank you all for being so cooperative, actually. As you can tell, this 1 hour is really, really tight. I instructed everyone to be really, really conscious on time, so they've been really constrained, by this time limit. They said whatever they could at this moment. I believe they have much, much more to share, and that will be given actually to the rest of the time, whatever, or afterwards. So thank you so much again, and thank you all actually being patient. I enjoyed greatly the facilitation process, moderation. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.